The Salem Witch Trials. In February of 1692, Tituba, a slave in Massachusetts, was accused of practicing witchcraft, starting the Salem Witch Trials. The trials didn't end until May of 1693, and during this time, many people were hanged after being accused of witchcraft. This was a horrible and brutal event in history, but it brought forth the idea of being innocent until proven guilty, changing court precedent for the better. During this time, there were witch trials in other countries as well, causing superstition in Massachusetts. The people moving to Massachusetts were mainly Puritan and had a strong belief in the devil, which caused people to believe in witches and witchcraft. How did religion play a part in the Salem Witch Trials?
Religion is essential to the Salem Witch Trials because the people involved really believed that the devil was alive, that you would pay for your sins by, burning in hell, and that it was important to be as good of a person as possible because God would really judge you on a daily basis.
There was also a smallpox epidemic right before the trials started, which caused people to be on edge and worried. Puritans believed that witches were under the control of the devil. At the time of the Salem Witch Trials, Massachusetts was not yet a state. In February of 1692, 8 girls began experiencing symptoms of witchcraft. These girls were supposedly pressured to identify the source of their affliction, and so the first 3 people accused of witchcraft were Tituba, Sarah Good, and Sarah Osborne. At Tituba's trial, she admitted that she was a witch and that both Sarahs had assisted her in practicing witchcraft. Because of her confession, Tituba wasn't hanged, but Sarah Good was hanged, and Sarah Osborne died in jail. Even though these 3 were the first accused witches, Bridget Bishop was the first to be hanged after insisting that she was innocent. When protesting her innocence, she said, "I am no witch, I am innocent, I know nothing of it." At the beginning of the trials, people with very little to no power were being accused because they didn't have the ability to defend themselves. Tituba was a slave and a woman. Because of this, she had a very low status in society and was one of the first to be accused. But as the witch hunts went on, people of higher status were accused. Why did the colony believe the witchcraft accusations?
Well, we're not sure that everybody really believed it, but I think that we can appreciate how mass hysteria can spread through rumors, through people accusing neighbors, and the general idea about, this person is to blame can easily spread and become a virus in a community, just like clips do on the web or on YouTube today, spread a rumor that's not true. After Bridget Bishop's death, a formal court was established to judge the accused witches. The Court of Oyer and Terminer was convened on June 2, 1692. Before the Court of Oyer and Terminer, the trials were judged by the grand jury. This wasn't a formal court and was made up of ministers, judges, and prosecutors from Salem and nearby towns. During the earlier trials with the grand jury, most witches were found guilty. When a witch was first accused, the accuser just had to report them to their local magistrate, and most magistrates believed the accusers. If there was enough evidence, the accused witch was brought before the jury. There were 5 types of evidence at the trials. Firstly, the accused would be asked to pass a test like recite the Lord's Prayer. Secondly, their bodies were examined for physical evidence. Moles were seen as portals for Satan to enter the body. Many Puritans believed that witches would have animal companions. They believed that these animals were not only used for companionship, but also as valuable ingredients for spells. Puritans also believed that in return for an animal's help, the witch would reward the animal with a few drops of the witch's blood. The third type of evidence was witness testimony. The fourth was spectral evidence. People believed that the devil couldn't enter anyone unwilling, so the witch would have to be willing to let Satan into their body. The final test was confession. None of the people who confessed were killed, but those who protested their innocence were hanged on Gallows Hill. The Court of Oyer and Terminer used something called spectral evidence, which is where the victim can say that they had been tormented by the accused witch's ghost. But some people began to doubt spectral evidence. These people claimed that this evidence wasn't practical and that confessions were being forced through torture and weren't true. So, in October 1692, spectral evidence was banned. When this was banned, the amount of witches found guilty declined. And soon after the trials ended, Governor Phipps disbanded the Court of Oyer and Terminer and moved all trials to a higher court. Deodat Lawson describes the examination of Martha Corey by saying, "On Monday, the 21st of March, the magistrates of Salem appointed to come to examination of Goodwife Corey,
and about 12 at the clock they went into the meeting house, which was thronged with spectators. Mr. Noyes began with a very pertinent and pathetic prayer, and Goodwife Corey being called to answer to what was alleged against her, she desired to go to prayer, which was much wondered at in the presence of so many hundred people. The magistrates told her they would not admit it, they came not there to hear her pray, but to examine her and what was alleged against her. The worshipful Mr. Hathorne asked her why she afflicted those children. She said she did not afflict them. He asked her, who did then? She said, I do not know. How should I know?
Deodat Lawson, a visiting minister. There are a few theories about what really caused witchcraft symptoms. Some historians have described the girls' behavior as juvenile delinquency, saying that they were just playing a mean-spirited prank that got out of hand. Others believe that the strange behavior may have been a result from a combination of asthma, encephalitis, Lyme disease, epilepsy, child abuse, and delusional psychosis. And a final theory is that the girls were just experiencing a rare case of food poisoning in rye.
Rye can get infected with ergot, which is a fungus that can cause food poisoning. Ergot thrives in moist, warm conditions, and 1692 was a super wet year. This would have helped the ergot grow. Ergot can cause muscle spasms, delusions, and seizures, which are some of the symptoms victims described. Rye was very common during this time, so it is likely the girls consumed it. The next summer was really dry, and the symptoms stopped then.
During the Salem Witch Trials, 200 people were accused, and 20 were killed. 6 of these were men, and the other 14 were women. 19 were hanged on Gallows Hill, and one, Giles Corey, was pressed to death with heavy stones for remaining silent during his trial. He was 81 years old. The ages of the accused witches ranged from Dorcas Good, 5 years old, to Giles Corey, 81 years old. 2 dogs were also killed during the trials, and 7 of the accused witches died in prison. In May of 1693, Governor Phipps pardoned all of the accused witches still in jail, including Tituba, who was sold back into slavery after the trials ended.
Eventually, the colony of Massachusetts admitted the trials were a mistake and apologized to the families of the killed witches. Those who were convicted had their property taken by the government, which left them and their families without home or money after the trials had ended. Even the people who had supported the witch trials originally soon realized the mistake, and on January 16, 1697, a public fast was held in Salem Village to ask God for forgiveness. Many villagers stopped hunting for witches because they had lost many family members and friends because of the trials. The court of Oyer and Sherman was blamed for all of the wrongdoings of the trials, and because of this, the jurors and judges' society status went down and caused many jurors to flee the village.
How did the Salem Witch Trials affect U.S. history?
Well, first of all, they make Halloween a lot more fun because everybody knows about the Salem Witch Trials. The other issue which might be memorable is that the people who were accused were of course innocent. So it's important to remember that we need to evaluate the evidence before really condemning someone for something they did.
In 1702, the General Court of Salem called the witchcraft trials unlawful, and the trials became a dark and shunned part in American history. On the 300th anniversary of the trials, every accused and/or executed person's name was cleared, and a memorial was dedicated to those who had been killed and to the awful events that the trials had caused. After the trials were over, Salem and his people did everything they could to rid themselves of the horrors that the trials had caused. They publicly apologized many times, and in 1752, Salem was renamed Danvers as a way to show that they were different people now and regretted their ancestors' actions.
Salem's witch trials weren't the first or the last around the world. In England and Europe, there are many more trials and hangings. In court cases today, the idea of being innocent until proven guilty is present because of the Salem witch trials. So even though the Salem witch trials killed many people, something good came out of them.
And here's our annotated bibliography.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where a dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met